You don't need a dramatic life overhaul. You need a 1% shift. Because identity doesn't change in explosions. It changes in micro decisions. In this video, I will show you how tiny strategic tweaks can quietly turn you into someone unrecognizable in the best possible way. I've got 6 tiny shifts that I want to share with you, so let's get straight into it. Okay, the first place micro-reinvention actually happens is in your defaults. Not your goals, not your vision board, not your 5-year plan. Your defaults. Because your life is not built from your big ambitions. It's built from what happens automatically on a random Tuesday when you're tired. What you do when you wake up. What you reach for when you're stressed. Whether you open your laptop or your phone. Whether you sit down to think or immediately react. There's research suggesting that a huge percentage of what we do every day, somewhere around 40%, is habitual. It's not a conscious choice, it's just a loop. So if you're trying to reinvent yourself, but your daily loops haven't changed, you're basically trying to out-willpower a system that is running on autopilot. That's exhausting. Micro-reinvention starts by asking a much less dramatic question. What are my current default settings? If you want to become someone healthier, maybe the shift isn't, I'm overhauling my entire diet. Maybe it's just deciding that you eat protein first, every day, before anything else. No debate. If you want to become more thoughtful and less reactive, maybe the shift isn't, I'm going to meditate for 45 minutes every day. Maybe it's just not checking your phone for the first 10 minutes of the day. Tiny, but structural. So shift number 1 is adjust your defaults. When I was working in medicine, especially during intense stretches, I learned very quickly that motivation was unreliable. I could not count on feeling inspired at 5 a.m. after barely sleeping. What worked were small systems. Food prepped, clothes laid out, calendar blocked. The decision was made once. The default carried it forward. And that's the point. You don't need to become a new person overnight. You need to change what happens without you negotiating with yourself. Because when the default changes, your behavior changes quietly. And when your behavior changes quietly and repeatedly, your identity starts to shift. Not dramatically, just steadily. Okay, the second shift is even smaller, and honestly, it's deceptively powerful. Upgrade 1 sentence. That's it. Most people don't realize how much of their identity is built from these tiny offhand statements that they repeat without thinking. Things like, I'm just not disciplined. I'm not good with money. I'm not a confident person. I'm bad at confrontation. I'm terrible at sticking with things. We say these things casually, almost as personality traits. But the problem is once you start repeating a sentence like that about yourself, your brain starts organizing your behavior around it. It looks for evidence that the sentence is true. So if you tell yourself, I'm terrible at sticking with things, every time you abandon a project early, your brain goes, see, there it is again. And the moments that contradict the story, the times that you did follow through, those get ignored. Over time, the sentence hardens into identity, not because it was objectively true, but because you kept rehearsing it. So here's the micro-reinvention move. Don't jump to, I'm amazing at this. That's just too big. Just shift from, I'm bad at this, to, I'm learning this. Or, I'm becoming someone who practices this. That's it. You don't need to hype yourself up. You just need to stop locking yourself into an outdated description. Because the sentence that you repeat becomes the identity that you defend. And if you want to become someone new, sometimes the first move is simply choosing a better sentence. Okay, the third shift is about speed. Not speed in a frantic way, not hustle culture, just reducing the lag between deciding and doing. Because micro-reinvention lives in that gap. Most people actually decide to change all the time. They decide that they're going to apply for the role. They decide that they're going to have the hard conversation. They decide that they are going to start the podcast or write the article or join the class, and then they wait. They wait to feel more confident. They wait for a clearer plan. They wait for the right time. And in that waiting, something subtle happens. The identity of someone who almost does things starts to solidify. So I've noticed something in my own life and in the people that I work with. The shorter the gap between decision and first action, the more likely the identity shift that you want actually sticks. If you decide that you want to explore public speaking, don't wait 6 months while you work on your confidence. Look up one local event, submit one application, book one coaching session. When I decided to apply for a TEDx talk, I did not feel like a TEDx speaker, not even slightly. But I decided to submit my application anyway. I blocked rehearsal time in my calendar and got ready for the audition. I told a few people that I was going for it this year. Those tiny actions forced the identity forward. Same with writing a book. You are not a writer because you feel like one. You're a writer because you opened the document today and wrote something, even if it was messy. And I can tell you there were many very unglamorous writing sessions that led to the book that I have got coming out. No music swelling in the background, just typing. Identity doesn't respond to your feelings. It responds to your evidence. So here's micro-shift number 3, which is take small action quickly. When you decide something matters, do one small, irreversible action within 24 hours. Send the email. Put down the deposit. Schedule the call. Announce it to someone that you trust. Not dramatic, just decisive. Because every time that you shorten that gap, you reinforce a new self-concept. I'm someone who moves. And that is a very different identity than someone who waits. So before we go on to the next shift, let me mention something quickly. If the idea of small strategic shifts resonates with you and you're thinking, okay, I need a bit of structure around this, I actually created something that might help. It's called The Reset, and it's a free 5-day challenge that's designed around this exact concept. Nothing extreme, no 4 a.m. wake-ups or life overhauls. Instead, you'll get a short email each day with one powerful shift to try. No fluff, no overwhelm, just something small and practical that helps you to realign with the person that you're becoming. There's also a simple printable tracker so that you can actually see your momentum building, and a few tools that I normally only share with paid students, and a couple of bonuses that I think that you'll really enjoy. But the biggest thing that people tell me is that it gives them a structured, nourishing way to get back in sync with themselves. So if that sounds helpful, you can get started by clicking the link below. Now, this next shift, number 4, it's a bit quieter, but it might be the most underrated one of all. Change your environment, just slightly. You cannot build a new identity in a room that constantly rehearses the old one. And I don't just mean your physical room. I mean your digital environment, your social environment, the conversations that you sit inside every day. We like to think that we're independent thinkers, and we are to a point. But there's a huge body of research showing that behavior is contagious. We mirror norms. We absorb expectations. We unconsciously calibrate ourselves to what's around us. So if you're trying to become more ambitious, more disciplined, more thoughtful, but you're immersed in environments that normalize distraction or cynicism or stagnation, you're fighting uphill constantly. Micro-reinvention doesn't always require a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's a 5% adjustment. Unfollow a few accounts that subtly reinforce comparison or negativity. Subscribe to something that stretches you instead. Rearrange your desk so the book that you keep meaning to read is visible and your phone is not. Spend more time in rooms, literal or virtual, where the behavior you want is normal. When I shifted from practicing medicine into building my own business and speaking more publicly, I had to change the rooms that I was in, not because medicine was wrong, but because the identity that I was growing into needed different conversations. If everyone around you treats bold ideas like fantasies, you'll shrink your own. If everyone around you treats growth as standard, you'll rise to it. Environment is scaffolding, and here's the thing, you don't have to burn everything down. You just have to adjust what's within reach, what's on your home screen, what's on your calendar, who you text when you're thinking about doing something brave. Those small environmental cues become silent reinforcements. You don't need more discipline. You might just need a different room. Okay, this next one, shift number 5, is really important. It's this: lower the drama. Increase the consistency. This is where most reinventions quietly die because we love intensity. We love the big declaration, the fresh notebook, the new era energy, the Monday reset that feels cinematic and slightly heroic. And then by Thursday, we're tired. The problem isn't that you lack ambition. It's that you're trying to change through intensity instead of repetition. There's a reason the idea of 1% improvement resonates so much. Small gains, compounded, become exponential over time. Not because they're flashy, but because they're sustainable. The person that you want to become is not built on your most motivated day. They're built on your most average Tuesday. If you want to become someone who is fit, it's not the extreme 10-day challenge that does it. It's 2 or 3 calm workouts a week for months. If you want to become someone articulate, it's not one brilliant performance. It's practicing your thoughts out loud, repeatedly, even when it feels awkward. To go back to my TEDx talk again for a sec, when I was preparing for that talk, there wasn't some magical rehearsal where everything suddenly clicked. It was tiny adjustments, rewriting one section, tightening one transition, practicing in my office when no one was there. Boring? Slightly. Effective? Completely. Intensity feels exciting. Consistency feels ordinary. But identity is built in the ordinary. If every time you try to change, you go big and then burn out, you reinforce the identity of someone who never sticks with things. So here's the micro shift. Make it slightly easier than you think it should be. Instead of, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day and do a 16-step morning routine built for champions, maybe it's, I'm going to pull my wake-up time back by 15 minutes earlier, build consistency, and then go from there. Instead of, I'm completely cutting out all sugar from this point forward, maybe it's, I'm going to stop eating after dinner. Underwhelm yourself, and then repeat it, because the quiet repetition is what hardens into identity. All right, this final shift, number 6, is the one that ties everything all together. Create one identity anchor. Not 10, not a whole new morning routine, just one small, repeatable action that proves who you are becoming. Because at the end of the day, identity is built on evidence. You don't become confident because you decided to be. You become confident because you have receipts. An identity anchor is a tiny daily or weekly behavior that gathers those receipts for you. If you're becoming someone more decisive, maybe your identity anchor is this. You make one small decision every day without overthinking it. You choose the restaurant. You send the email. You stop revising the caption for the 10th time and just hit publish. Or if you're becoming someone more creative, maybe it's 200 words a day. Not perfect words, just words. Or if you're becoming someone more courageous, maybe it's initiating one uncomfortable conversation each week instead of rehearsing it in your head for a month. You don't need a personality overhaul, you need a proof point. When I started speaking more publicly, I didn't try to become a confident speaker in one leap. I just kept saying yes to rooms that stretched me. One talk, then another, then another. Each one became evidence. And once the evidence accumulates, something shifts internally. The identity starts to feel earned instead of aspirational. That's what an identity anchor does. It collapses the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. It's small enough to be doable, but consistent enough to be undeniable. And over time, it creates a quiet internal certainty. This is who I am now. Not because you declared it, because you proved it. So here's the truth. Reinvention doesn't usually arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly in the way you set up your mornings, in the sentence that you stop repeating about yourself, in the email that you send instead of overthinking, in the room that you choose to sit in the one small anchor that you refuse to skip. None of it looks dramatic at first. In fact, if someone were watching your life from the outside, they might not notice anything different, but you would. Because internally, something is shifting. The excuses are getting weaker. The evidence is stacking up. And then one day, usually on a very ordinary day, you realize that you're handling things differently. You're calmer, more decisive, more disciplined, braver. And you think, when did that happen? It didn't happen in a breakthrough moment. It happened in a series of 1% shifts. That's how identity changes, not in explosions, in micro decisions. So don't wait for the dramatic overhaul. Adjust the millimeter and then repeat that. Now, if you want to build on this, especially the decisiveness piece, the next video that I want you to watch is linked on the final screen. It's about how decisive people think and act differently, and it pairs perfectly with what we have talked about today. Because micro-reinvention only works if you actually move. And I will see you over there. You need a 1% shift. Because did I swallow that? But the problem is, once you start squeaky, say it in a non-awkward way. Don't jump to, I'm amazing at this. Don't mumble either. Okay, did it.